Hi, today I'll be sharing my pathogen with you, Histoplasma Capsulatum. A little unknown pathogen, probably more well known for the disease it causes, the Darling disease, aka histoplasmosis. The origins of Histocapsulatum are complicated. The disease, first discovered by Samuel Taylor Darling, eventually renamed after him. He came upon this disease by working in the Panama Canal. Discovered a carpenter died of tuberculosis-like symptoms, opened him up for an autopsy, and found that his lungs were different from those of tuberculosis patients. It wasn't until the 1940s, somewhere around the eastern United States, Chester Emmons was able to successfully isolate soil containing the pathogen, Histoplasma capsulatum. This was huge because we were able to see what Histoplasma capsulatum looked like. Around the same year, the 1940s, another man, Amos Christie, found out the definitive difference between histoplasmosis and tuberculosis. He was a pediatrician who worked with kids, noticed that some of them had tuberculosis-like symptoms, gave them testing. They all came up negative. Eventually, through research, they attributed this to the pathogen Histoplasma capsulatum and the disease it causes, histoplasmosis. The structure of Histoplasma capsulatum is also complicated. It grows as a dimorphic fungi, starts off as a filamentous mold, aka a mycelium, eventually turns into a yeast. Despite the name, there's no capsule when it enters the host. Temperature plays a big role in what form Histoplasma capsulatum turns into, and like any fungi, it adheres to the same rules. Cell wall is inflexible, unable to obtain nutrients by itself, but through enzymes that decompose organic matter. This is called a saprobe. The cell wall changes its glucan type when morph happens. Alpha glucan at 37 degrees Celsius, beta glucan at 25 degrees Celsius. This will be important later on in the discussion, as it helps Histoplasma capsulatum in certain situations, as you'll find out. Infection by Histoplasma capsulatum is pretty straightforward. You could inhale it in the air. This is because of bird and bat droppings. The bird and bat droppings have the potential to spread Histoplasma capsulatum. When it's in the soil, it increases the chance of getting infected by a lot. This happens because when you kick soil up into the air, a person could inhale Histoplasma capsulatum, which would then turn into spores, making it even more resilient. They turn into spores because of the human body. It's around 35 to 37 degrees Celsius, and it causes that dimorphic change. Virulence factors of Histoplasma capsulatum is it's an intracellular pathogen, has easy access to macrophages, which we'll talk about later, and could keep on reproducing through microkineta. Microkineta, it helps with asexual reproduction of Histoplasma capsulatum to keep it going inside of the host, and because of its cell wall, it's able to hide in macrophages while in yeast form. So this is a mycelium. It's white, has a fuzzy appearance. This happens around 25 degrees Celsius. And this is it in yeast form, a spore. This is around 35-37 degrees Celsius, normal human body temperature. And this is the process of Histoplasma capsulatum. As you can see here, it starts off as mycelium. It's eventually inhaled. Here's the microkineta, helping asexual reproduction. It's inhaled and turns into yeast in the body. Okay, pathogenesis. Inhalation turns to spores because of the high temperature in the body. This makes it able to survive harsher conditions just of it being a spore, and the microkineta help it keep on reproducing. Now what you'll find is in most people who experience histoplasmosis, calcification occurs in the lungs. This is because once it's detected, the body's response is to seal off the invader that is Histoplasma capsulatum, resulting in calcification of the lungs and damage to the lungs. Okay, it's an intracellular pathogen specifically for macrophages, able to hide inside them through phagocytosis. This happens because of the cell walls. The alpha glucans are part of the yeast form of Histoplasma capsulatum, so it's able to hide and not inhibit a response from the immune system. Compared to the mycelium form, which is beta glucans, which does induce a immune response in the human body. When a person contracts histoplasmosis, the symptoms are pretty mild. If you have the mild condition of it, fever, cough, fatigue, chills, headache, chest pain, body ache, and if it's severe, you'll have all of the symptoms stated before, but eventually it'll turn into a focal infection, not just damaging the lungs, but it'll eventually get to the lymph nodes, eventually the blood, the nervous system. It'll do a lot of damage, and it's usually fatal if you leave it unattended. Okay, statistics. Due to the properties of beta-glucan cell wall in mycelial form, mold form, it's used for a lot of studies for a possible vaccine. As far as I know, there's no vaccine for histoplasmosis, Histoplasma capsulatum. In the United States, it's mainly an issue in the eastern part of the United States. I guess you could say it's more endemic to the Midwest specifically. The immunocompromised, they suffer greatly, but due to advancements here in the United States, it's not too bad compared to the rest of the world. Mortality rate of 5% for the immunocompromised kids and adults. For the immunocompetent with symptoms, about 4% die. Now, worldwide, it is a problem, mainly for people with AIDS and HIV, where it's rampant. So probably Africa, Latin America, for example. 30% of mortality among the immunocompetent in Latin America, according to the CDC. Okay, treatment is a little sophisticated today. Luckily, for the most part, if your immune system is strong enough, histoplasmosis can go away by itself. Most of the time, antibiotics, antifungal medication are not necessary, as histoplasmosis can go away by itself. If Histoplasma capsulatum infects a person who is immunocompromised, it has the ability to turn into a focal infection. That happens because it goes through the lungs, eventually to the lymph nodes, then to the blood, then to the nervous system, and affects all the systems of the body. This is extremely lethal to a person, and luckily we do have an injection for it. It's called amphotericin B injection. Works by targeting the cell membrane, disrupting it, and causing Histoplasma capsulatum to lyse. And there's another form of treatment that takes 3 months to a year. Thank you, that is all.